What's up, guys? Cass here from GiveWave Studios, and today I'm going to show you guys how to turn this pile of foam right here into this Wonder Woman shield right here. Alright, let's get it. Alright guys, so first thing we're going to do is work on these little parts and put all of these together. These are super simple to get out. These are basically going to be the tabs that are going to hold the straps for our arms on the back of the shield. So I have some of my barge in my little ketchup bottle so I can get like some fine detail stuff. Before you start doing that, you want to heat up your foam a little bit, just kind of seal it up. Alright, once you got that done, go ahead and glue all of your parts. I think what I'm going to do is just put some glue on the back of this, just like a little more than I need, and then use that to just kind of smudge the other side. You gotta remember that barge only sticks to itself, so this is a good way of making sure that only the parts that need the glue get the glue. Alright, I'm gonna do the same thing for this, and I'm just gonna speed through this part and glue everything together, and you guys can see the final results. Alright guys, so now that we're done with these, this is what these looks like. Right here, we should have 4 of those. Alright, we'll put these aside for now. And next thing we're gonna do is anytime you guys get laser cut foam, the edges are gonna behave pretty much the same as the back end of it with the texture, which means it's completely sealed. So what you're gonna need to do is go in here and sand these edges down a little bit. I'm gonna do that with a belt sander, but you guys can go ahead and do that with some sandpaper. I'm gonna come back and show you guys the difference, and then we're gonna glue everything together. Okay, so basically this is what you guys want. If you can tell on camera, this really dark part here, this is what the laser cutter would leave, and this is what I went on ahead and did. So just sanded that down. You can do this with sandpaper, you can do it with a Dremel. Try not to sand too much off of it because you will be putting these back together, and you don't want to eat away too much at the pattern because these need to line up perfectly symmetrical to each other. Alright, so that's what we're going to go ahead and do now. So I'm going to sand all of my edges, and we're literally just going to put this back together like a big old pizza pie. Alright, I'm back and all my edges have been sanded. Now you might be wondering, oh, what's the point of sanding the edges? Well, that is because once we put all of these together, we're going to be shaping the foam and giving it a nice curve, and you want the bond between the pieces to be as strong as possible, and leaving it with the burnt edges is a surefire way to separate your seams. So you want to have good access to the foam, make sure it's nice and fuzzy so you can glue it together. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and speed through now. I'm just going to glue all these pieces together. Alright, so now that this is put together, you will have seams, obviously. I'm going to show you guys how to fill some of these. The ones that go across these lines on the starburst here are not super important, nor are the ones in the circle here. So what you want to make sure that you do when you put these together, you want to make sure that at least from here to this edge here, that you glue it as flush as possible so that you have the least amount of work to do to just kind of like make everything look seamless once you're done. Like even if these are off from each other a little bit, you don't have to worry too much about it because these parts will be covering this seam completely, so you can completely hide that. Same thing when we go ahead and put our circle in, we're not going to see that at all. So these seams are the most important. Obviously the back doesn't really matter all that much either. It's nice if you can get it flush. If not, don't worry about it. No one's really going to see it unless you show it to them, and there are ways to kind of level that out also. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put some tape down, some masking tape, and I'm going to go ahead and heat form this. So I'm gonna go through the process of the tape real quick. Okay, so the reason I've put some masking tape here is because now I'm gonna try to heat this nice and evenly, and I'm gonna start forming the shield. So we're gonna go ahead and heat it and shape it and form it so it can give us that, you know, dome look that a shield actually has. And to help our seams from not coming apart or separating too much so we don't have to do too much work, I just put some tape over it. That way it keeps it nice and taut as I try to put some heat on everything and get some shape on it. So in order to do this, you can do this with your elbow. You can find something that resembles some type of dome. You can use like the back end of like a soda bottle or something like that. And literally what you want is to find something that has some kind of dome to it. And once you've heated the foam, you're gonna go ahead and shape it around this particular material. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed through that process, but I'm gonna heat my foam evenly and get back to you guys in a bit. All right, so as you guys can see, we went from flat pizza to looking like a proper shield. And I have a nice, I believe it's a pretty even curve all around. So I know that I sped through this, so just to give you guys a little breakdown of what it is that I was doing, basically tried to heat the parts evenly, starting from the outer edges and working my way in. So I would heat my outer edges on both sides, making sure that the foam is nice and warm. You don't want to stay in one area too long because you can possibly burn the foam, and that can affect the look of your final product. So you want to constantly be spinning this around, give it a nice little bit of heat, and then once you have that, just go in and kind of force the foam into doing just kind of like this convex or concave, I'm not even sure, bend the foam in like that. And then once you have a nice even edge, just try to, you know, do the same pressure while turning it around, and then gradually bring that same technique more and more towards the middle. Again, you can grab like, you can cut like a soda bottle, maybe a little closer to the edge. This makes it a little wobbly. The longer it is, you don't need something that long. You probably need it about like this tall, so it's a little bit more stable. And then use that to kind of give yourself a little bit of curve in the middle. Obviously heat it up. And also I would just kind of use my fist in the middle when the foam was nice and warm, just constantly turning it around that pivot point to kind of give it this nice dome shape that you guys see now. Now we are going to take some steps to kind of reinforce and make sure that we don't lose this curvature. So we're gonna go into that next. We're gonna put the shield aside for a little bit, and you're gonna grab the scrap piece, the square scrap piece of foam that came with your kit, and you're gonna find something circular, a bucket, a box of grandma's cookies, those sugar cookies, whatever it is. You're gonna try to do something probably as big as possible. It doesn't need to be as big as this, it could be a little smaller, but you're gonna cut out a circular shape. All right, once you have your circular shape, you're gonna heat this up and basically do the same thing that you did for the shield, but because this is a much smaller circle, you're gonna be able to give it a much nicer dome curve. And what we're gonna do is heat this up, give it that curve, and we're gonna glue it to the center of our shield so that it forces the larger circle to maintain that kind of convex shape on the surface, and obviously concave on the inside. So I'm gonna go ahead and heat this nice and good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and shake this real quick. You can do this with your elbow, you can do this with your knee. There's plenty of different ways that you guys can go ahead and give a nice curved shape to this circle. I'm gonna try to make this one as pronounced as possible. All right, so now we have something that's pretty nice. Now I don't need it to be that big, but you want to over exaggerate your curve a little bit so that when the foam cools down, it doesn't go down too much. So we're looking at something like this, okay? And what I'm gonna do is place this right in the center of my foam on the inside of my shield. And then I'm gonna go ahead and trace that in there. Now, if you want to be screen accurate, you don't have to do this. It just helps with rigidity and makes sure that you have a nice solid piece that's not like too floppy, because if this is too floppy, your paint might crack and there's all sorts of other things that can happen. All right, so with this done here, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some sandpaper. I'm gonna sand off this area. Now you want, again, to expose the fuzzy of the foam. All right, I don't know if you guys can tell, this is nice and fuzzy. This is still very plasticky. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna glue this piece and force the foam to stay within this circle. All right. A little trick I use to make sure that my glue is ready on both sides, I just kind of do like a quick tap, and if it comes up with my finger, it usually means it needs more time to dry. But like right here, this is an area that's nice and good. It's not coming off. But you can kind of almost visually tell the areas that are not ready yet. They usually look a little bit more wet. So I'm gonna give this time to dry, and then we're gonna go ahead and glue this together. All right, so we're gonna glue our two pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and center this as best I can. And then I'm gonna lift the shield towards it, turning it around from all sides until I'm making contact on all sides. Remember, lift the shield up towards the curve. Don't push it. Don't push the curve down towards the shield. That makes a big difference in maintaining the shape and the rigidity of your piece. Right, so I have something like this. Go ahead and bring that curve back in a little bit. And then just gonna push this out and just make sure that I visually have my curve back. And then now I can put a little bit more curve up against the edge here, just to make sure that it's nice and continuous, so it doesn't look like it stops flat onto it. And you can do that with more heat and whatnot. All right, so now we have a really strong center, but our outsides are pretty weak. And you also got some thin scraps. You're gonna grab those strips that came with your kit, and what we're gonna do is glue these onto the edge, and we're gonna force them to take the curve well, the outer curve of the shield, and what that's going to do is maintain the lip curve backwards and also add a little bit more rigidity to the overall structure of the shield. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and sand all of the edges as we usually do, and we're gonna add glue to the edge, and I'm gonna go ahead and glue all of these parts together. Go ahead and speed through that, come back to you guys in a bit. And now we have a nice, strong, solid shield that won't wobble too much, and that'll hold its shape and maintain itself exactly as we see it. All right, and that, guys, is pretty much the main construction. I can go ahead and take off my masking tape. Layers of paint that are gonna go all right, so from pizza pie to proper shield, okay? And if you guys are wondering still, these little things are going to be the little tabs that hold the leather that your arm is going to go on, like this and like this, all right? And so now begins pretty much the easy part, although the most tedious part, and it's going to be basically taking all of your little pieces and gluing them down to the surface. So all of these obviously are going to go up against the edge. Take notice of the orientation of the cut, so that angle goes that way, you know, same thing, you flip it the other way to do the other one, and just wrap those all the way around. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed through that process and catch you guys when I'm done with that. One thing to take note of, I'll pause before I completely finish this. As I'm gluing these down, I've actually grabbed each piece and just kind of stretched it out a little bit so that it doesn't fall exactly right on the edge here. It doesn't fall exactly right on the edge here, but more so a little bit past it. Reason being for that is that this comes to such a thin point, there really is no point of contact with the glue. So I try to make it so that I get at least like some of the thicker parts there. And what I'm gonna do is just go back in with an X-Acto knife and slice all of those off. Once this is nice and painted, you won't really see a difference. I mean, if you guys wanna go ahead and put it, you know, right up to the edge, be my guest, but I find that it makes it so that, you know, if I were to like drop this or someone were to rub up against it, because it's such a weak connection, it makes it so that it doesn't like peel off or anything like that, because there's good enough adhesion and contact between the two layers. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this one off. So literally just kind of going with my barge, spreading it both sides. Boom, boom, boom. Go ahead and do this last one. And just kind of, I kind of pull it a little bit more towards the edge there, and make sure I just tack it down nice and proper. All right, I'll grab my X-Acto knife, go back in, and just cut all of these excess parts out. All right. So yeah, just gonna go through the motions, do that, and then after that, I'm gonna get to these. So it takes a while. Grab yourself a show, watch a movie, do something, because this is the tedious part, but it is fairly easy. So you may find that this gets tedious really quickly, and this is a little trick I came up with just so I can hold all of these little strings down. Use the tape that you guys were using earlier to mask out your seams, and just kind of put the sticky side up, grab two pieces, stick it to the table, and then just grab some pieces. Make sure you alternate them, so going this way, going that way, this way, that way, because of the different angles. That way, now that I have this, I can just real quickly just kind of base these without having to maneuver them too much, and then I just like reload them, you know, like a clip or something like that, and that makes it super easy and fast to just kind of get through this whole process a lot faster. All right, so little tip trick, I'm gonna keep going at it. All right, the deed is done. We got all of our parts in. Our shield is starting to look complete. So now what I'm gonna do is, you guys can do this with a pair of scissors, you can do this with an X-Acto. I just grab the sharp blade and I'm gonna start snipping off all of the excess here. I'm kind of doing it at an angle so it kind of fades into the edge, but you guys can cut it straight if you wish, or just kind of like sand it in. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish all of this. All right, our edges have been snipped. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it has a slight little bevel going down there. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand all of this smooth. If you guys did a decent job lining everything up nice and flush, you really don't have to worry about this side. But if you want to, you can sand this edge down so that it's nice and smooth and flush with itself. So I'm gonna do that. Back at it. I don't know if you guys can tell, but my edges are nice and beveled. I went in and hit these with a sandpaper and just kind of made them flush with the edge here, so it's like a nice smooth transition. So before we go into painting, like I said, we're gonna want to just kind of like cover these seams a little bit, and what I use for this is quick seal. It's kind of like plumbing stuff. You want to have like some water on hand, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of that. And just want to like dip your finger in the water. Let's get that in there. So really put the paste down. Just try and cover those edges. Well, those edges, those seams, as much as possible. Use the other finger, kind of dip it in the water, spread it out a little bit. Don't use too much water. It will thin out like it just did just now. So I'm gonna put some down again. I'm gonna do that for all 4 parts basically. Just want to get that in there. You might want to do at least like 2 layers of this, because when it does dry and level out, it does flatten out a little bit, so you still might have just a tiny bit of a seam still once it's done its thing. Concentrating most of this stuff in the crease, and then you just kind of fade it out on the left and right. All right, so we're gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do another coat of this, and then we can go into painting. All right, so painting time. We're gonna coat the shield with at least 2 or 3 coats of Plasti Dip, as well as the little tabs for the inside. And then once that's nice and dry, we're gonna hit this up with some Rust-Oleum dark bronze, jeez. With some Rust-Oleum dark bronze. And we're going to do about 2 coats of that as well, all right? I'm gonna end up doing these like a metallic gold. All right, so we're nice and Plasti Dip. Our seams are pretty much almost invisible. You can tell right here, you can barely see it. All right, and then now with this coat of metallic paint, that stuff's just gonna completely disappear. All right, we're gonna go with the dark bronze. Fast forward through that. All right, guys, our shield is ready and nice and painted and pretty darn near seamless. And so what I'm gonna do is grab some black acrylic paint. I have this bronze laser bit paint. You can also use like a rub and buff for this step also. You can probably get like a bronze. This is more a, what is this, like pewter color, but they do sell like a bronze color of this also. You can grab this on Amazon. I'll have links in the description. And basically we're just gonna go in, just brush over the details. Pretty much this entire piece gets covered in kind of like this bronze color. So you don't have to just focus on one piece at a time. That's just kind of how I like to go about it, because I tend to put a little more here and a little less there, just kind of like fade it out a little bit. But basically, that's the process for the rest of this. Again, it's not super difficult, just a little tedious, and it'll take some time. So go ahead and do that. And once I've covered all of my pieces with this bronze, including these details here, I'm gonna go ahead and do a dark wash on everything to kind of really weather it out and make it look a little less shiny and new. I'm gonna go ahead and speed through the bronze process, and I'll see you guys back for the weathering with the acrylic paint. Right, so we have our shield painted, looking nice, but right now it just looks too fresh and too clean. So what we're gonna do is dirty all of this up a little bit. In order to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some black acrylic paint. I use Liquitex. You can use any brand you want. It doesn't really matter for this step that much. I'm gonna plop a little bit down on my little plate here. I'm gonna drop a little bit of water. Not too much. Stop real quick. And then I'm just gonna mix this up. So you want like something that's somewhat liquid, not too liquid. And then once you have that, just go ahead and smudge it on your shield. It doesn't have to be pretty. Actually, the dirtier, the better. Do this in small steps. Just kind of wipe away, get it into some of the creases. Just kind of overall, just kind of give it like a nice dull, dingy look. Okay? And that's pretty much gonna be the gist of this step. Just kind of put paint down, wipe away, put paint down, wipe away until it's as dirty or grungy as you guys want it to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed through this process and see you guys with the final result, and we're gonna put some straps in the back. Alright guys, and that completes the weathering for the prop right here. That's how it looks really good. So now we're going to turn this around and we're going to work on the inside. Now I got me some leather strips. You don't have to necessarily do leather. You can do some pleather. Go to Joann's, get you some stuff. And what I'm going to do is, for the one that goes on my hand, I'm going to put it flat on the table. I'm just going to grab one of my tabs, put it down, see how much I need to go inside of there. I'm going to mark that. Right, once I've marked that, put my hand in it, get a good grip, and then just kind of bring this down on the other side, and then mark how far that should go. That way I know that this tab's gonna be right here, this tab's gonna be right here, and then I have enough room to do that. So I'm gonna cut that strip, I'm gonna glue these onto it. I believe these go on the outside and these on the inside. So that's how that's gonna look right here, okay? And then here, you guys can do, Velcro, you can do clips. I opted to go for a buckle. Kind of looks a little bit more classic in times with the movie. So what I'm gonna do is I've already marked this, as you can tell, so I'm just gonna cut this out, and I'm gonna use my hole punch, just cut a whole bunch of holes in here so that I can strap it onto my arm. That way, if someone else wants to wear it or borrow it, it's adjustable. And there you have it, guys. That's it. I have my tabs put in. I have my belt clip right here. I can slide my hand in and wear my shield. So you made it this far. Congratulations. Thanks for purchasing the kit. I hope this was helpful and useful to you. And if you guys have any questions or comment, please feel free to write them down below. I try to read them as much as possible. All right, catch you on the next one. Cheers.